Hi, this is a video on the A320 of Aerosoft's that has FS2 crew built in. This is part of what they come out with. That's the A318, 319, 320, and 321. And this is how I fly. This may not be the best way to fly them, but it works for me. And if you can get anything out of this video, great. If not, just ignore it. But the first thing I do is use FS Commander to put together a flight plan. And I'm going to be flying from Kansas City to Denver, just a short little hop. And so we put in KMCI. Whoops, where's the cursor? KMCI to KDEN. Hit enter. And then what I usually do is I'll click on High Altitude Flight Plan and see what it does for me. Immediately it put in MCI here, which as you can see is too close, so I want to delete that out. Let me zoom out here a little bit and see what this route looks like. That was a nice quick little jump, and that should work okay. Now, I don't use SIDS and stars, so if you use SIDS and stars, you'll want to do this differently. What I do is I look for a fix that lines up on the runway that I want to use and use that. Now, this waypoint right here isn't what I want, so I'm going to go down and delete this waypoint. And when you're going to use a waypoint as a fix in FS Commander, you want to click on the waypoint right before the one you want to enter. So right before Denver, there's Goodland. So I click on Goodland. And what I do is move over here to Denver. And I'll probably take, what's close over here? 35 right. 35 right looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over here, click on Fix. That's going to bring up all these fixes to choose from. And I'll find one that lines up with 35 right down here a ways. What about maybe this one? You do a right click, click on it, and that's got us pretty well lined up. So this flight plan looks pretty good. I'll take it. What we do is go to Flight Plan, Save As, and Aerosoft wants a 10-digit flight plan name. So I usually just add 01 onto KMCI KDEN, and I have this set up so that it saves in the Aerosoft Airbus as well as FSX. Click on Save, and got my flight plan. The next thing we do is to bring up the Aerosoft Airbus fuel planner, and we're going to be flying an A320, and we can change the passengers if the cargo if we want to, or just click on random to come up with something. But what we want to do is type in our departure airport, KMCI, tab over to KDEN, hit enter, and we got 462 nautical miles, and our fuel, and you'll want to write this down because you'll need this to enter into the Airbus, is 19 point, and I'll round up and put 19.6 pounds of fuel. Then you want to generate a load sheet because you'll import this into the FMC of the Airbus. Click on Generate Load Sheet, click on Exit. Okay, now load up FSX, pick the Airbus 320, whichever paint job you like. And what I normally do is go into Flight Planner, click on Load, and pick my flight plan. and pick a time. Around 11 noon is good. Go ahead and fly it. And if you're wanting to zoom in here a bit, if you're leaving from a gate, then you'll want to move over to the gate. We're lined up on runway number 1, so I think we'll just go ahead and take that and make that KMCI runway 1 and KDN runway. Let me look at FS Commander here and see where it was we were gonna come into. What did we say? 35. Get rid of these fixes. 35 right. So we'll need that when loading up our FMC. Okay. First thing I do is when I got everything loaded up is to go in and drop down, if I can get it, drop down our Windows selection, and the default is to have it horizontal, and I went in and changed it to vertical just because I like getting it out of the way better. I'll show you how to do that as soon as we get into it. So the FMC is this third one from the bottom, FMC number 2, or MCDU number 2. So let's zoom into this a little closer. This is the one you use to do most of your communicating with FS2 crew. So what first thing we want to do is go into aircraft state and set it cold and dark. Now we got everything shut down. Now we'll go into the overhead panel and turn the batteries on, which is right here. Go down, turn beacon on, and then move up here and turn on ADIRS. Let the IRS start aligning. And I go back down to the main panel and turn the brightness up on your displays. You can use your mouse wheel to do this. Turn that one up, turn this one up. We can go down to the pedestal, zoom in to these, turn our ECAM displays up. There we go, so we can see what's going on. All right, next we'll go back to the MCDU2 and go into options. And here's where you can go into views and turn your window selectors to horizontal or vertical, which is nice. You can also go into sound, make some sound changes, or turn sound on or off. Here's where you can go into sound, and if you go into volume, you can turn down. See, I've got batteries and some of these things turned down so I don't get so much wind and hissing noise, which is aggravating. But what you'll do almost every time is go in options, go into checklist, turn checklist on, and turn your copilot on. Hit return. Then go to the checklist itself and click on cockpit preparation, and your copilot and pilot will start their communications.
Cockpit preparation checklist.
Batteries,
Both on.
electrical power,
Now while this is going on, you can go in
External
and start
power is
setting up
on.
your
Navigation lights.
CDU for the flight.
Set on.
Engine master.
Both off.
You can
Engine
clear
mode
out
selector.
Checked normal.
the
Landing gear
reset
lever.
IRS.
Checked.
Parking
Go
brake.
into a knit
Off.
Flaps.
and
Check
put
position.
Speed brake lever.
Checked retracted.
Thrust
KMCI
levers.
Idle.
Transponder mode.
to
Checked standby.
Radio control panel.
KDEN.
Set on.
ECAM recall.
Checked.
Anti-skid.
On.
Number 1
Flight
was the one
director.
we entered.
On.
Emergency lights.
Set.
No smoking signs.
Set on.
Put
Anti-ice.
in a flight number
Off.
if you have
Probe
one.
window heat.
Auto.
Air condition.
Checked.
Ventilation panel.
Is checked.
Electric panel.
Checked.
You can see they're
Fuel
going
pumps.
through all this checklist. If you want to, you can wait
Set
to do
on.
this.
Hydraulics.
Is checked.
Go up,
Anti-brake pressure.
Checked.
Ground
watch them
proximity
flip
warning system.
switches if you can catch them.
On.
Electronic flight control system.
On.
ADIRS.
Checked.
Emergency equipment.
Is checked.
Checklist complete.
So let's go back down here. We're going to put 50 in as a cost index. Of course, you can use whatever you like. And cruise altitude, since it's pretty short, let's try 29,000. Next thing is if we click on our right arrow, we'll go over and enter our fuel, which was 19.6. And that takes care of the iNet. Now we can go back to our flight plan and see that our KMCI, we've got 01 left as the takeoff runway, and we'll stick with that one. For Denver, it's got 16 left, and we want 35 right. So I'll click here, go to arrival, and start moving. When you click the up arrow, it starts moving your options up. And we're looking for 35 right. There it is, ILS 35 right. Click on insert. And that should be pretty well set. Now you can start moving your flight plan up one waypoint at a time to check for discontinuities. If you run into any, there's one. This is different than the PMDG. The PMDG, you'd click here to copy this one and then place it on top of this one in it. In the Aerosoft Airbus, you click on clear and clear out the discontinuity. So a bit different. And now we're down to Denver, so we should be good all the way through. I'm going to go ahead and set up. You normally used 1 notch of flaps for takeoff, which is right here. And if you click on next phase till you get to the approach phase, we can go ahead and get everything set up here. Our QNH, or our barometric pressure, we use the European, which is 1013, and temperature in centigrade. Since it's winter, I'm going to use about 4. This is our approach. You can wait and enter this in when you're getting ready for your approach if you want to. I'm going to put our winds in as 260 at 2. Transition altitude is 18,000. And for our radio altimeter, I normally put in 200. I'm not sure what a lot of this is about, but that's what I use and it works. We got that set up, got our flight plan set up. This part is done. We can go back to our MCDU. It's telling us to close the doors. Before I close the doors, I go into load, fuel, and I click on load sheet. This is going to load that load sheet that we created in the Aerosoft software, fuel planner software. And then instead of waiting for it can board and load it in real time, but we want to get it done, so I'll click on instant, get that done. Click on return, go to aircraft doors, and we're going to close the doors that are open. As you can see, just closed it. Go
Before
back to
start
our checklist, and they start that up on their own.
Windows and doors.
Closed and locked.
APU.
Set on.
APU bleed.
And this is one of these checks that takes a while. I don't know what it is about APU bleed. While you're waiting for that, what you can do is go to your main dash. I'm gonna go out about 80 miles. Click on this, make sure these are all reset to dashes. And move this up to our 29,000, your altitude up to our 29,000 feet. I did a right click on this little outer ring, and that makes it so you can move
Set
up
on.
at
External
1,000 increments
Disconnected
instead of
and
100.
off.
Cabin signs.
Set on.
Thrust levers.
Idle.
Parking brake.
On.
Bearer reference.
Checked. 1013.
1013. Check. Beacon lights.
On.
Checklist complete.
Okay, and if you're going to do a pushback, you would use start push, and this will give you some pushback information. Since we're on the runway, we're just going to start on the runway.
Flight deck to ground.
Go ahead, sir.
Ground, we have ATC clearance for start and taxi now. Please confirm ground equipment and services are clear.
Roger. You're off from the chocks today, Captain, so your ground equipment and stairs are clear and all doors are closed. Ready when you are.
Okay.
Alright, we can start engine 2. I'm going to go to the pedestal view. And the way you start the engines is turn this knob by right-clicking to start
Starting engine 2.
and click on engine 2. You can see it spin up here. Engine 2 is starting to move. Captain will tell us when it's stable and we can start one.
Engine 2 is stabilized.
Starting number 1.
Engine 1 is stabilized. That's a good start on both engines. All systems are normal. Thanks for your help and all clear. We'll see you for the signal on the right, please.
Roger, 2 good starts, all clear signals. See you on the right.
Now we'll wait.
After start checklist.
Engine mode selector.
Set.
APU bleed.
Set off.
APU master.
Set off.
Ground spoilers.
Set.
Rudder trim.
Checked 0.
Pitch trim.
Set.
Flight controls.
I'm going to skip that one.
Flaps.
Flaps 1.
Anti-ice.
Off.
Ecam status.
Checked.
Ecam door page.
Checked.
Hand signal.
Received.
Checklist complete.
And now if you were going to taxi, you know, it's flashing. Initiate taxi 10 knots. You can also see it. It's hard to see on mine, but you can see, you'll get some indicators up here. It says initiate taxiing 10 knots.
Taxiing checklist.
Since we're not taxiing, we'll just click on it.
No slide.
Skip it.
Set on.
Brake check.
I need to push my brakes.
Pedal check 0.
There we
Check.
go.
Auto brakes.
Max.
Takeoff data.
Reviewed.
FCU.
Checked.
Flight instruments.
Checked.
Checked. TO config.
Set.
Checklist complete.
Right now, it's telling us to press number 1 for the before takeoff checklist. And basically, if we hit number 1,
Flight attendants, seats for takeoff.
that's it.
Before takeoff checklist.
Brake temperature.
Checked.
Brake fans.
Off.
Engine mode selector.
Checked normal.
TCAS.
TARA, tilt above.
Exterior lights.
Set on.
Sliding tables.
Stowed.
Stowed. Checklist complete.
Okay, initiate thrust. Now I'm going to pull up a pedestal view here to make it a little easier for you to see, since the thrust levers are just a bit different in an Airbus. Let me pull this down here. And you can see what goes on takeoff. Okay, we're ready for takeoff. As I move the thrust levers forward, you'll hear clicks. There's a click.
Takeoff.
I'm going
Man,
full
toga,
thrust.
SRS and runway.
Check. Power set. .100 knots.
Checked.
Meet 1. Rotate. Positive climb.
Gear up.
Have a climb about
Gear up.
15 degrees.
Navigation.
Check.
about 1,000 feet or so, I'm going to turn on auto throttle, or I mean autopilot, which
Gears
is
up,
right
lights
there.
off.
Autopilot on. Flaps 0.
Now right here
Speed
it's
check, flaps
flashing
0.
lever climb. And what I want to do is pull back my throttle 2 notches.
Climb thrust.
Right there to climb thrust.
On the after takeoff checklist.
And that's where it'll be set for
Engine
the
mode
remainder of
selector.
the flight to
Check
land.
normal.
Spoilers,
Disarmed.
flaps,
Check retracted.
landing gear,
Gear up. Lights off.
exterior lights,
Set off.
tax,
Both on.
anti-ice,
Off.
TCAS,
Checked.
altimeter,
1013.
1013. Checked. Checklist complete.
And now to go to page 2 of the checklist. We hit our right mouse button that takes us over to climb. We just got a message, climb to cruise altitude. And that's what it's going to do. It's just going to keep climbing till we're at 29,000 feet and cruise. And I'll pause this right now and come back to you when we're getting close to descent. Okay, we're getting close to starting our descent here. This little arrow right here is our descent arrow. And unlike the PMDG, you have to initiate descent in this plane. So what we're going to do is adjust our altitude down. I usually, I'll go about 1,500 feet above our landing altitude, which is 5,000. Maybe we'll do 7. It's just, I don't know what the correct way is, frankly. It's just kind of whatever works for you. And so we're getting close to initiating descent. We're also getting close to our descent preparation checklist. Starts in 9 nautical miles, and this will start automatically. So everything else should be pretty well set. Let me crank this down to 20 miles so we can see this coming up, because our descent preparation checklist will start before we actually start descending, obviously.
Descent preparation checklist.
Seatbelt signs,
On.
anti-ice,
Off.
landing information,
Received.
altimeter,
Standard.
error radio.
Checked.
Checklist complete.
Okay. Now we can initiate our descent on the arrow or before. I'm going to go ahead and initiate it now just to give us plenty of
Initiating
time.
descent.
FMA check.
Radar tilt.
Set below.
Something I do when I'm flying is I'll go up here and click on Views, New View, and the MCD2 view. And I'll undock this and really move it to another monitor. I have a multi-monitor setup. We can just move it down here. What's nice is we can zoom in and watch what's going on the flight computer and keep our eye out the window at the same time. Keep an eye on what's going on here. As we keep continuing our descent, we'll have another checklist come up here pretty soon, and it will let us know. It'll count down like it did before on the other checklist. Occasionally, we may get a pop-up on our screen here telling us that we need to kick our spoilers on, so we'll keep an eye out for that. As we continue our descent. Looks like we're about 50 miles out of Denver. You can always turn this off and land it yourself, but this is a toughie to land. At least I found it that way, and another buddy of mine. It takes a while to get a feel for this plane. It doesn't handle as nice as like the PMDG 737 or the 777 when you're landing by hand. And one thing I like to do, because I've run into some problems occasionally, would check our flight computer, check our radio, and see if this thing has the correct ILS frequency in it. 110.15. And let me double check on FS Commander here. .35, right, 110.15, and that's correct. I've had some trouble landing occasionally, and it was because the correct frequency wasn't in there. I'm going to click this on Performance. Click the Performance button. We have the Initiate Approach phase. We'll want to click on that later.
Transition altitude.
Checked. 1013.
1013. Checked.
Lights on.
On.
And as I mentioned before, you never have to touch the throttle. The only time you'll want to get ready to pull the throttle back is at touchdown. Looks like we're about 26 miles out right now. Looks like it's getting a little bumpy. Okay, here we go. Our approach phase starts in 4 miles, or our approach checklist. As it says right up there that it starts in 11 miles. No, 3.2 miles. As you can see, you can start it manually by hitting the #1 key, or wait for the countdown. Let's just go ahead and hit the 1 key. What the heck?
Approach checklist.
ECAM status.
Checked.
Sliding tables.
Stowed.
Stowed. Cabin signs.
Checked.
Nav accuracy.
Checked.
Bearer reference
Checked. 1013.
1013. Checked. Checklist complete.
Okay, activate approach phase. So what I'm going
Flight
to do
attendants, prepare for landing.
is go over. You click it again to confirm it. And this is something I'm still a little fuzzy on, whether to click the localizer button or click on approach over here. So what I'm going to do is click approach and click
Second autopilot is on.
second autopilot
Speed check.
on.
Flaps 1.
If it stays on, we're in good shape. And they should take over the landing from here. Looks like we're about 16 miles out.
Localizer captured. Looks like both our autopilot lights are still on. Everything's looking good.
Flaps 2.
Speed check. Flaps 2.
Gear down.
Gear down.
Flaps 3.
Speed check. Flaps 3.
Flaps full.
Speed check. Flaps full.
Landing checklist.
Landing gear.
Down and locked, 3 greens.
Ground spoilers.
Checked and armed.
Auto brakes.
Medium.
Exterior lights.
On.
Go around altitude.
Set.
Landing memo.
Checked no blue.
Checklist complete.
Getting a little static in my sound, sounds like. Sorry about that.
Continue.
Ground spoilers.
I just pulled my throttle all the way back.
70 knots.
Manual brakes.
Auto brakes off. APU on.
After landing checklist.
Exterior lights.
Checked.
Ground spoilers.
Set off.
Engine mode selector.
Checked normal.
Flaps.
Checked retracted.
TCAS.
Checked standby.
Brake temperature.
Checked.
APU.
On.
Checklist complete.
I'm going to go ahead and pull off the runway here. Now your throttle will work like normal instead of using the clicks and detents. Brakes are touchy. And that's it. They'll go through some more shutdown procedures when you pull up to the gate that you can go through if you like. But that's what it takes to fly the Aerosoft Airbus A320.